Can you believe we are halfway through 2026? Crazy. July is this week, and what I've been doing the past couple of years is just talking about my favorite releases that have come out this year so far. If not this year, then like late last year, and just sort of like round up my favorites or ones that really stood out to me. And this is a great video for me to make because come the end of the year, when I do my yearly roundup, it's nice to take a look at this video and just kind of remind myself, because so many releases come out every year, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I was going back and like creating this list and I was like, oh my God, that's right, that came out earlier this year. Sometimes it feels like it just came out, sometimes it feels like a couple years ago. And if you guys are interested in any more information about the products that I'm gonna be talking about, definitely check down below. Of course, I always link the things in my description box, but YouTube Shopping now has like a new format, so it pops down underneath the video, so you can click there to get more information, and I'll also leave a pinned comment for you. Let's go ahead and get started. I've got some skincare, or actually just one skincare product I want to talk about. I've got one hair care product I want to talk about, and then the rest is makeup. So Clé de Peau came out with this Brightening Mask Treatment Supreme. This is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So there are 2 steps, 3 pieces. So the first step, let me actually just pull one out. I think I have one left. I have really been milking this box. So the first step is this cleansing gel. It comes in this little capsule. And this cleansing gel very gently chemically exfoliates your skin. So this gel, it's not sticky at all. It's very silky. And I just, massage it all over my face. And then I take like a damp washcloth and I just sort of wipe it all away. And the second and third steps are like a sheet mask. So there is a top portion and then a bottom portion. So yeah, they just come in a little envelope. And it does even mention in like the information for this mask that you may feel like a little bit of warmth, a little bit of tingling. I definitely do. I don't feel it right after I use this mask, but I will feel it like a little bit later on. My face will almost feel like the skin has been activated in a way. So I have very dry, sensitive skin. And so when I saw chemical exfoliator, I was like, I don't know if that's gonna work for me. Generally, if anything is too strong, my eczema will come out. So I was careful, I was cautious. I used the gel cleanser very quickly, but it does not irritate my skin in that way at all. So very happy about that. But I did want to just share with you what it says on the Clé de Peau site. And now that I'm here, this mask looks like it's 30% off. What is going on? I'm gonna get another box. Yeah, it's 30% off. I hope it still is when this video goes live. But you can also receive a 5-piece Synactive collection gift with any $475 purchase, plus a limited edition full-size gift when you spend $900. Use code Synactive26. Sorry, I'm just seeing this for the first time because I just came on here. I just wanted to get some more information about this that I could share with you guys, because I just know when I use this mask, my skin looks phenomenal. Smooth, plump, fine lines are diminished. My skin immediately looks more even, like all of the amazing things. My larger pores that I have in the summertime, those are definitely diminished as well. So it removes dull, dead surface cells with a unique blend of exfoliating botanical essences. Skin appears immediately clearer, brighter, more even toned. I can definitely attest to that. And then the brightening mask is meant to reduce the appearance of dark spots while imbuing skin with 24 hours of intensive moisturization for smooth, youthful, glowing skin. I mean, all of that is true. I have these dark spots and I feel like they just look a little bit more muted, a little bit, nothing, magical where they completely disappear the next day. Nothing like that. They just everything looks a little bit more even toned. My skin just looks smoother. Like I just said, glowing, like all of the things that you want. I get it all in this one mask. So some of the key ingredients: platinum golden silk. It enhances skin's ability to defend itself against internal and external stressors. And then there is Clé de Peau's exclusive ingredient. It's highly concentrated 4-MSK complex, gently reduces visible hyperpigmentation and prevents future damage. Romania root extract, which helps calm skin. That's also another thing that this does. It definitely calms my skin. Even when I feel that heat come up, it's not like my skin feels irritated in any way. It's like what I said, it just feels like it's activated, like it's awakened. It's a really interesting feeling. And then there's C Ferment Brightener, a proven natural source for illumination. So I'm a huge, huge fan of this mask. And I know this is a fairly new product and it just recently came out. So I'm so excited it's 30% off. I'm definitely getting another box. Anyway, let's move on to hair. So I've been using this Hair Ritual by Sicily mask. It is the blonde, white, and gray beautifying hair care mask. So it neutralizes yellow tones, right? We've all come across products like these, especially if you have blonde hair or white hair, right? Everything is purple toned, violet toned, or whatever, shampoos, conditioners, masks, etc. And I've played with quite a few since I got my hair bleached last September. So it's been a few months. I've tried some Olaplex stuff. I've tried some L'Oreal. I've tried Amica. I've tried Redken. I mean, I've tried quite Oribe. I've tried quite a few. And you guys have witnessed this because I do film quite often, but there have been some weeks where I've gone overboard. Where I've gone overboard and my skin and my hair looks a little bit violet. It looks a little bit purple. And I'm sure you guys, again, if you use violet toned products, you've also come across this as well. So there's like weeks where I've had to pull back and then I do feel like my hair looks a little bit too yellow and then I go back in and it looks okay. And then the next time I try it, it looks a little bit too violet. So I feel like, you know, in the past, I've always kind of done this dance between like, okay, the last time I washed my hair, did I use a violet conditioner? I can't this time or whatever. I use this every time basically as a conditioner. It's a mask. You're supposed to leave it on for 3 to 5 minutes. So what I do is I use a regular shampoo. So shampoo that I really enjoy, like the Living Proof Perfect Hair Day shampoo. I'll use that, basically one that doesn't have a violet tone. So just a regular straight up shampoo. And then I'll use this as my conditioner. I'll put this in all over and then I'll just go about, you know, bathing, shaving, doing all the other stuff to ensure that I have this on for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then I will use my Oribe Brightening Blonde Serum. That's also purple toned, but that I use after I've towel dried my hair and I'm ready to like blow dry my hair. That's sort of a serum that I like to use to protect, like heat protect my hair. Anyway, so those are the only 2 purple products that I use, but I use it every single time I wash my hair, which is pretty much like every other day. This is phenomenal. Never ever do I get like that purple tint to my hair. All it does is it really, really cools it down, which I love. It really gets rid of that brassiness and I never ever have to worry about running into the like, oh God, I turned my hair purple. So this has been absolutely phenomenal. It's also a really, really great mask in terms of like conditioning. I feel like my hair still feels, most importantly, it feels really, really nice. It feels really, really smooth. My hair has a nice like sheen to it. So I have been loving this hair mask. I highly recommend it if you run into issues like I have where your hair turns yellow, it turns brassy, and then you go overboard and you turn your hair purple and you kind of do this dance back and forth. I would highly recommend trying out this mask. Okay, let's get into makeup. And I usually do these videos and I talk about makeup from where I start, basically, from how I do my makeup, from foundation to lips. But I think I'm gonna go backwards. I'm probably gonna confuse myself, but I think I'm gonna go backwards today, just to change it up a little bit. So let's talk about the lip product that I have on today. This is the Westman Atelier Hydro Balm, and this shade is Pop. What did I do with it? I have so many of these shades. Here it is. So here is Pop. So I'm gonna do a swatch of this so you can see what this looks like, you know, without my natural lip color underneath. So for a balm, I would say it's got like a medium level pigmentation. There's a little bit of sheerness. It's obviously not very, very opaque, and it's so comfortable. The formula is so nice. It's not too soft. It's not like one of those balms where it kind of like falls apart if you press it too hard on your lips. It's not too firm where it drags a little bit and then it's got a meltdown on your lips or whatever. It's like it's like the Goldilocks of balms. It is so smooth. It goes on feeling immediately moisturizing, and all of the shades that I've gotten, and like I said, I have 7 of them, have been wonderful. But I will say I've been using Pop the most. Nectar I've also been using the most. This is such a great balm version of the Nectar Lit Up Highlight Stick. So there's Nectar. It has like a little bit of a peach tone to it, and then it's got this gorgeous, gorgeous sheen. So this has a little bit more of a metallic sheen versus Pop. Pop, that sheen that you see, is really just the balm itself. I've also been loving Cafe Creme, which I'm realizing I left it in my handbag. because I wore that yesterday. Anyway, Cafe Creme is a really beautiful nude shade. It goes on and really kind of just cools down your lips in a really subtle way. It pairs beautifully with nude lipsticks. So I've really been loving the Hydro Balm from Westman Atelier. I was so excited when this release was announced because it just seems so aligned with Westman Atelier's brand. I love a tinted balm. It is most definitely the lip product that I reach for the most, like just on a day-to-day basis. Not only did it not disappoint, but I think it exceeded my expectations. So definitely a standout product of 2026 so far. Another lip product that I'm really enjoying, I have to admit, because I was a little bit nervous and skeptical and not excited for this reformulation, but it is the Chanel glosses. So they had a Rouge Cocoa gloss for years. I loved it. Shade 804 Rose Nafe. You guys know if you've been watching me for, I don't know, the past 5 or 6 years, it is the lip gloss that I've been going on and on about. It has appeared in my all-time favorite videos. And then they reformulated it. They reformulated it and I was like, what are they doing to me? But I really like this reformulation. It feels updated. It doesn't just feel like, you know what, we're bored. We're just gonna change it up. This really feels updated because the old gloss, it definitely felt like a gloss of another time. It was a little bit thicker. I wouldn't say it was very sticky at all, which was great. And I think that's what got that Rouge Cocoa gloss through so many years because it wasn't sticky. It wasn't like a gloss from like the 90s. So this gloss, it feels a little bit thinner than the previous version. It has a little bit more of like a drop of an oily kind of feel to it, which again, I feel like really updates this gloss formula. I think we are seeing a lot of that with our glosses. They have almost like this gloss oil hybrid feel to them. And so what they've added to this gloss to make it a hydro gloss is they've added camellia ceramides, they've added like peptides, things like that. So they've added ingredients that are not only hydrating for your lips, but really moisturizing, like for the long term, almost like skincare for your lips. So I really do appreciate it. I have these 3 colors. This is Icing, this is Accessoire. I'm sure I'm slaughtering the French pronunciation for that. And then this is Fabulos. And this one I believe is limited edition, but I really do love the shades that I got, even though they did not bring over Rose Nafe. It's okay. This Icing is a little bit deeper than the previous version of Icing, but not quite as deep as Rose Nafe. And there's a beautiful level of pigmentation. It's a gloss, so there's not a ton of pigmentation. They layer beautifully over things that are a little bit more opaque if you just want to add a little bit of moisturization to your lips. In the short period of time that I've had these, they've really grown on me. And I've also really been enjoying the Dior Glass lipsticks. Is it glass or glassy? The Dior Addict Glass Lipstick. I have 3 shades. So Dior has marketed these as basically a lip gloss in a stick. And I thought, is this gonna be sticky? Are they gonna feel too thick? Are they gonna look like I'm drooling? Like, what's the deal with these? So I got a range of shades. So this is Gem Dior, which is just a milky, shimmery kind of color. I also got shade 709, which is Dior Exodus. This is a really bright red. And then I got more of a nude shade, which is shade 504. I think it's Dior Sweet. So this shade is Dior Sweet. I like the colors that I picked, very lovely. They have a huge shade range, but what is most interesting about this particular product is the formula. So these feel great on the lips. They do have a really glossy shine to them. Nothing like a mirror finish, but really glossy. They really do appear like lip gloss on the lips. They are infused with like a hyaluronic acid sphere, so they are very moisturizing. But what I find so interesting about this product is they have like a certain density or like thickness to them, but they don't feel heavy on the lips at all. So when I swatched this product, I was like, ooh, these feel kind of sticky. They feel kind of thick. When I swatched them, they kind of felt like they'd be a product that would kind of drag over my lips. But as soon as I got them on my lips, I was like, oh, this is a completely different experience. And they just didn't feel heavy. They're not sticky at all. You don't get the strings. They're not goopy in any way, but they do also feel very different from a typical lipstick. So the formula is very unique. I really appreciate them. I love the Gem Dior shade. I mentioned it in yesterday's video. This milky shade. It's just gorgeous by itself. It's gorgeous with a little lip liner. It's gorgeous layered on top of deeper lip colors. And it's just a really unique product. And if you did catch the video where I tried these for the first time, I misspoke. So when I went to go raise this, they have that really clicky kind of mechanism. And usually in the past, when I've experienced that clicky mechanism, you can't roll the product back down. So I was like, oh, I don't like that, but whatever, not a deal breaker. But you can actually roll these back down, just FYI. So yeah, those are the Dior Addict glass lipsticks. Really been enjoying those. All right, let's talk about eyeshadow. So I really fell in love with these Marc Jacobs single eyeshadows. These are the Born Star eyeshadow. Now, the packaging for the new Marc Jacobs beauty line was so cute, but not too cutesy. I just really appreciate it. Everything looks like one of those Mylar helium balloons. So I got 3 shades, and I just checked the Sephora site because as soon as this was launched, they pretty much sold out, but they've restocked a lot of them except for this one shade that I really love. I'm so bummed, but it's called Shady. How could I forget? It's called Shady, and it's this really beautiful light taupey champagne shimmer shade. Very beautiful. And much like the Dior Glass lipstick, it's really the formula of these. They are marketed, I believe, as like a cream to powder formula, but they almost feel more like just a hybrid of something between a cream and powder, because I don't feel like there's much of a transformation, if you will. I don't feel like it sets down and then all of a sudden, you know, I feel like a little powdery kind of finish to it. I don't really feel that at all. It's a very kind of slick, maybe you can tell from the package. It's a very slick kind of formula, but it's not wet or emollient at all. So it just works beautifully. It blends out really beautifully, blends out very easily. It's a very effortless kind of formula. So that's Shady. The one matte shade that I have is called On Brand, and this is in stock. And then the other shade that I have, which is another like shimmer metallic shade, is Out Late. This is a gorgeous shade if you want to do a smoky eye, or if you're going to be doing a lot of partying or whatever. This is a really great shade. So that is Out Late. And yeah, just really beautiful, great packaging, you know, and I was so excited for this relaunch of the Marc Jacobs beauty brand, and I think they really hit it out of the park. I think they were really able to bring a lot of what we wanted from the previous collection, but really switched it up. I mean, the packaging alone is like, wow, like completely different from that sleek black and silver packaging that they had. But they brought back some favorite products. I mean, you know, completely reformulated, but brought back some favorite products and then redid some, because the previous eyeshadows from Marc Jacobs were those really long, narrow eyeshadow palettes, and I think it's fun that they did singles. The other eyeshadow, which is just such a standout product of 2026 so far, is the tan palette from Natasha Denona. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And I know when she announced this palette before it was actually released, the big conversation, right? The big question we asked ourselves was, do we need this? Do we need yet another palette of browns and neutrals? And of course, the answer is we don't need any of this, but I really love Natasha Denona eyeshadows, and I really love the fact that they come in these 15-pan palettes because I find them so inspirational. They give me so many different ideas for different eye looks. And you guys know I'm not that daring when it comes to eyeshadow. Pretty basic. I love the one and done eyeshadow, right? The simpler the better. But whenever I pull out a Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette, I'm like, ooh, let's play. Or if I feel like playing, I think, let me pull out a Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette. So I love having all of these shades that, yes, we probably have them in other palettes. I love having them all in this one palette. And then I get them in Natasha Denona formula, which is fabulous. The mattes are beautiful. The metallics are beautiful, the shimmers are gorgeous. I mean, all of the shades in here are just really stunning. And the perfect time of the year to come out with a tan eyeshadow palette, right? Right before we're going to the summertime, right before we start doing our really bronzy kind of looks. This is absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning. So this is what I have on my eyes today. I basically have Paddle Down, which is this matte shade. I have a little bit of this Toasted shade down. And then I do have this Daydream shadow down to kind of deepen up my outer corners and my lash line. And then I tapped a little bit of Burnt right onto the center of my eyes. So Natasha Denona, I mean, she hits it out of the park again with one of her eyeshadow palettes. All right, guys, I have one highlight to mention. A lot of highlights have come out. A lot of highlights I really love. But this one is very special. I find this one to be very unique. And ever since this came into my life, I have been using just this highlight pretty much, right? Yeah, this is the only highlight I've been using. This is the Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow Balm Concentrate, and I have it in the lighter shade. Oop, this is Butterfly Light. There are 2 shades available. The other one is called High Key Light. And so we've got a cream highlight. So I always just use my finger and I just tap it right onto the tops of my cheeks and down my nose or wherever. There's like a real creaminess and emollients to this highlight, but it's not greasy at all. It is another Goldilocks formula of a cream highlight. So it goes on really, really beautifully, but it doesn't feel like it needs time to set. It doesn't feel too powdery. And because it's a cream formula, it's not too much. It's just like this perfect level of highlight where I get this glossy finish. I get this really beautiful sheen there. It's so pearly. I'm just like pulling out all of the words that I can find for the most perfect highlight, but I love this highlight. I love it so much. And people have asked me to compare it to other cream highlights that I have, most notably the Westman Atelier Lit Up Highlight Stick. The highlight stick I feel like is a little bit more balmy, and I feel like this has a little bit more of a pearly sheen versus the Westman Atelier really uses like shimmeriness. This is very, very pearly. I feel like a slight distinction there. And I was very curious when I got this, whether or not I would see like micro glitters when I go into, natural daylight, because that happens a lot. I feel like for some reason in like indoor lighting, you don't really pick up the micro glitters. So I did a swatch on my hand when I first got this. And if you guys caught that video, you will have seen this shot, but there's no micro glitters. It's the smoothest sheen. If you're not a fan of micro glitters, I would go for this one. It's so incredibly flawless. I love, love, love this highlight. It's stunning. Okay, so for blush, I've got the Violette FR Plume Blush in Latte Praline on. I just have this on right now, but usually I like to pair it with the Guerlain Terracotta Blush in Pearly Beige. It makes for a beautiful pairing, just FYI, gorgeous pairing because the Pearly Beige has like a little bit more of a sheen to it. This is a very soft matte finish. I didn't layer that on today. That's not a new blush, so I didn't want to bring that up in today's video. So I wanted to wear this one alone so you could see. It's just a really beautiful, beautiful, soft application, cloud-like blush. And I feel like I'm seeing that description and that word used a lot for the blush look that's getting really, really popular. I think with the whole transition blush situation, this whole cloud-like blush is really sort of like the ideal blush look these days. And while I'm someone that really, really enjoys a lot of glow to my cheeks, even in my bronzers, I love at least like a satin glow to everything. I've got really, really dry skin and I just like that brightness on my cheeks. So for me, normally this would be like, oh, I like this, but whatever, I'm gonna reach for like my more glowy blushes. But I have really, really been loving this whole cloud-like soft matte blush situation. And this blush does such a beautiful job achieving that look. So it's definitely a very creamy formula, but it's not overly emollient at all. It's not greasy at all. It does feel like a cream to powder. It does behave like a cream to powder. So after it kind of sets down and you've worked it onto your skin, it will feel a little powdery on the skin. So I think that's how it's able to achieve that, kind of cloud-like appearance. And there's also a sheerness to the pigmentation. I don't want to say it's like lacking in pigmentation. It just has a softness to the application and to the pigmentation. So the color that you see in the pan, it's going to be a very light version on the cheeks. And that's something I noticed because when these blushes popped up on Sephora, I looked at, the color options, whatever, and I was like, wow, all those are really like bright and deep. So I just picked like the lightest one, but now I realize like once you apply them, they just have this really kind of ethereal, sheer application to them. And so don't be intimidated by, if you have a very light skin tone than me, don't be intimidated by the colors that you see. It's going to be a very light interpretation once you get it onto your cheeks. The other blushes I've really been enjoying are the Sarah Creole Coming in Hot Blurring Pressed Mousse Blush, and Love Fool is a shade that I've been using quite a bit. Sunshine is probably the shade that I've been using the most, and here's Love Bites. This is the most pink, neutral toned out of the 3 that I have. The other 2 are warmer, and these are almost, I don't want to say the opposite from the Violette FR blushes, but in terms of pigmentation, what you see is what you get. So these are a fairly strong blush. You don't have to use a heavy hand with these to get the pigmentation that you want, but I really like the formula of these. These have a really, really nice slip to them, so they go on really beautifully, really easily. It's like they almost blend themselves out, and then they do sort of settle down into a powder finish. But I really liked that about these blushes because the cream to powder blush, also with the Violette FR blush as well, they glide on really, really seamlessly, really beautifully. Where a lot of the other sort of cream to powder blushes that I've tried, sometimes there's a little bit of tugging. There's a density to the formula where both of these feel much lighter. The Sarah Creole has much more slip than the Violette FR. I feel like the Violette FR kind of turns into a powder much more quickly, kind of like as soon as you get it on to your cheek and you start working it out, kind of starts acting like a powder pretty quickly, where the mousse texture of this really, really kind of comes out. So it ends up being like this very light kind of cream, even though it starts out kind of dense. Like as soon as you start gliding it onto your skin and like brushing it on, it really just sort of glides on and becomes like one with your skin. I just really like how this sets down. It kind of like melds to your skin. Really beautiful, and I really, really appreciate the formula of these. All right, bronzers. I got a lot of bronzers, you guys. I couldn't whittle this down because I love all of these bronzers for different reasons. So I'm gonna start with the cream bronzer. The rest are basically powder bronzers. So the Westman Atelier, the Sun Tone Bronzing Creme, this is in shade Soleil Parfait 1. There's, I believe, 4 shades. This is the lightest. And each of them have 2 shades in there. So one lighter, one darker. The lighter one is meant to be the bronze, the one that you can kind of, you know, brush all over your face. And then this one is meant to be used to kind of sculpt out. So what I do generally is I just use this one, to be honest. I just use this one. I just go in with this one. I kind of brush it all over. And I do really love the brush that they released with these. This is the blend, is this the Blender 2? Yeah, this is the Blender 2 brush. So I just use this brush, I go into the lighter shade and I just brush it all over. This shade I will use, you know, if I have a little extra time, if I'm feeling a little extra, I'll go in with this one and I'll put it just, you know, in the hollows of my cheekbones. Maybe I'll take the leftover and brush it on the sides of my nose. So that's essentially how I use this, but I really, really love the tone. I love, love, love the tone of this lighter one and the darker one, but I use this one more. And this one has just a really, really nice, neutral, slightly pinky peach undertone to it. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous tone. The formula is really great. It's a cream, but it's not too emollient, so it doesn't feel messy or too slip slidey on the skin. It really sets down very, very nicely, and I feel like it looks super natural. So this is what I have as bronzer down all over my face. I feel like I hadn't used this in a while because so many bronzers have been coming out and I've been testing new bronzers. And this one I think was like the first, for me, the first like big bronzer release of the season. So anyway, absolutely love this. And then we've got 2 new baked gel powder formula bronzers here. Both of these are similar in many ways, the formula, but also like their situation. So the Sicily, what's the full name for this? This is the Sun-Kissed Powder Gel. This is newly packaged, newly reformulated, and the color is, or the shade I should say, is a little bit different from their previous version of this. So it's not a completely brand new product, like we're familiar with like the look and the feel of this particular product, but the shade is a little bit less warm than the previous version, which I appreciate. The previous version was very, very warm. It was definitely a bronze that I felt like I could only use in the summertime. Otherwise, it just looked way too warm. So I really loved the direction that they went with for the shade, and it's that beautiful baked gel powder formula that you guys know I love. It goes on in such a beautiful, sheer, ethereal way, and then you can build it up pretty quickly and it just melts onto your skin. It's almost like you can see it melting onto your skin. So absolutely gorgeous. The formula for the Chantecaille, pretty much the same, right? Baked gel powder formula, does the same thing. It just melts onto your skin, behaves beautifully. It's sheer, it builds up quickly. But this was also a product, again, much like the Sicily, that did exist. I believe their previous version was like a limited edition, but it was around for a really long time. Same name, this is the Real Bronze, but they did change the shades a little bit. So there's 2 shades. There's Serena, and there was Serena before, and then previously there was Goa, and now they came out with Soleil. And Soleil is lighter than their previous version of Goa. Their new version of Serena, I feel like, much like the Sicily, is not quite as warm as the previous Serena. It's still warmer than the Soleil, but yeah, it's just a little bit toned down. But the reason why I'm mentioning both of these is because their tones are so different. This you can see, right? You can almost see the gray in there, so it's a little bit cooler. I really like this when I'm feeling, I don't know, when I'm feeling like extra special pale. And I feel like if I put on anything too warm on my skin, it's just gonna look very, very orange. So this is a great cooler toned bronzer. And then this one is a great like neutral to warmer toned bronzer. So this is great, kind of lightly dusted all over. This is great if you want to maybe use as a little bit of contour. So I do think these two bronzers do serve different purposes. If you have a neutral skin tone like mine, you can probably utilize both. But if you have like a warmer skin tone, you probably want the Sisley. If you have a cooler skin tone, you'll probably want the Chantecaille. And then this is the last bronze I'll talk about, I promise. But this is the Marc Jacobs Legally Bronze, and I have the shade Fair. Here's Fair. And again, the packaging, can we just talk about this packaging? Again, we have something that looks like a Mylar balloon or a silver pillow. It's so pillowy. Anyway, I talked about this product in yesterday's video, sorry. So just quickly, again, this is just a pressed powder formula, but it's very, very finely milled. It feels like silk, especially when you go in, you like finger swatch, it just feels like silk. And I'm talking about this particular pressed powder bronzer because I love the tone of this. This is definitely one that I can really just use as a setting powder almost because it's light, it's sheer, it brushes on really, really beautifully. It kind of like melts onto your skin because it's so finely milled. And because of the slight peachy undertone, I can use it as a blush. I can use it as eyeshadow. So I wanted to mention this one, and much for the same reason I mentioned it in yesterday's video, is because I feel like this is a great, almost like a one and done face situation. So if you're traveling and you don't have a lot of room to pack many things, like bronze, lightly dusted all over, blush, really concentrated on your cheeks, and then eyeshadow, just kind of put it in your crease area, kind of put it on like the outer corner of your eye, and you have a really great kind of like monochromatic, really beautiful look. So anyway, I just wanted to mention this guy for that reason, and the formula is really great. It's very, very like soft and finely milled. As for powder, I cannot shut up about this pressed powder. So this is from Ilia. This is the Soft Focus finishing powder, and I'm holding up medium translucent. There's 3 shades. There's a lighter one, there's a deeper one. This is also a baked product, and can you see it in the pan? There's just a little bit of a sheen. And I have been using this pretty much as a finishing powder, but if you guys have been watching me for a while, my favorite finishing powder, which unfortunately has been reformulated, and I don't really like the reformulation that much, but it was the Guerlain Meteorites, the little pearls. And I would take my Sonoji, you know, my flat top kabuki brush, and I would sit there and I would buff it in, and you get this beautiful, beautiful finish to your skin. Anyway, because that particular product has been reformulated, I don't like the new one. I haven't really been using finishing powder. I lost the wind in my sails, if you will. But when this one came out, I was like, wow, this is really promising because this is essentially the same formula as their blush. And I love, love, love these Ilia baked blushes. They're just gorgeous. So anyway, when I saw this powder, I was like, what is that? That looks just like the blush. So anyway, I picked this up, but because it's in like a compact, I didn't think to use it as a finishing powder. I used it like as a setting powder, because finishing powders for me generally are like loose powders or ones that have like a little bit more of a sheen, whatever. Anyway, I was thinking too narrowly. So I love using a powder puff with this powder. And in the past, I've stayed away from powder puffs because they tend to leave a much thicker layer of powder down. And because I have dry skin, that's really not ideal, not for my skin. I also don't really enjoy like a super matte look. So I've always kind of avoided powder puffs. Anyway, I decided to use a powder puff with here, again, because of the whole transition blush situation. And Painted by Esther, that's a technique that she uses. She uses like a powder puff and really kind of like blots out the edges of the blush. So I started doing that. I started using a powder puff. I really like this Natasha Denona Marshmallow Puff, by the way. It's really nice. It's so thick and spongy. Because of that one technique, I'm like, you know what? Once I'm done with all my cheek products, I'm gonna go in with this powder and really just sort of pat it around the perimeter of like all of my cheek products, around my blush and highlight, and just sort of like blur out those edges if there are any edges. And that's what I used to like doing with my finishing powder with the Meteorites and the Sonia G brush. You know, I would sit there and buff and it would just like meld everything together so you wouldn't have any like stripes, there wouldn't be any delineation between your bronzer and your blush, or your blush and your highlight. And so it's just another way of doing the same thing, but with like a different product and a different tool. But I really, really like the effect that I get with this powder, with the powder puff. And I'll set my under eyes with it. Sometimes I'll use a brush and just sort of like pat the powder down with a brush. Sometimes I'll just go in with the powder puff if I have extra powder on there. I'll just tap that underneath my eyes. It is wonderful. This is absolutely my favorite, hands down, pressed powder. So I've got two concealers to talk about. The first one is the Chanel Le Beige Serum Concealer. I really like this concealer. This concealer came out right on the heels of their other concealer being reformulated. I do like that one. That one's very, very nice. I have nothing against that other one. But this one I really like because this serves, for me, like a different purpose than a lot of the other concealers in my collection, because it is very, very lightweight. It is a serum concealer, so the texture of this concealer is very light. It also has, I would say, a lighter coverage than a lot of the other concealers I have. And this, for me, perfect in the summertime because I don't usually wear a heavy base. And so if you don't wear a heavy base, but you wear a very heavy concealer, that discrepancy is very, very obvious. So if I'm not wearing like a foundation, right, I'm wearing maybe like one of my blurring primers or something, I just want to go in with a light concealer, maybe just to even out, you know, the skin around my eyes, maybe take down the darkness of my dark spots there, things like that, a little bit around my nose if my redness is really apparent that day. So this is, it's just light. It's light in every way. It's light in its texture, it's light in its coverage, and I really, really like this for the spring, summertime. But it does enough. I mean, it is still a concealer. It does enough. It's just not going to be one of those like medium high, super high coverage concealers. It's definitely more of like a medium on the lighter side concealer. My only slight pet peeve with this concealer is the weird applicator. It looks like a doe foot applicator, but there's no fuzzy tip to it. So it's just a hard plastic. It almost feels like a manufacturing mistake, like they forgot to put the fuzzy toe on here. So without that fuzzy toe, it doesn't pick up a lot of product. So all the product that you have is just whatever is stuck to this plastic foot. So as soon as you glide it on, you have to, it's weird. Anyway, not a big deal, obviously not a deal breaker, but just a little odd. And of course, you guys knew I would talk about the Chantecaille Bio Lifting Concealer. I haven't been able to shut up about this concealer since I got it. It is gorgeous, gorgeous on the skin. It has much higher coverage than the serum concealer from Chanel. And I have it in the shade Alabaster. Oh, the shade that I have in this, I actually got two shades, but the one that I've been using more of is B20 from the serum concealer. So this concealer is flawless. The coverage is there. It's what I have on today. I have it all over my eyes, and I have it dotted over these darker spots that I have. It's, for me, the perfect amount of coverage. The texture of this concealer is amazing. It blends out really beautifully. It doesn't sink into fine lines. It's blurring. It's smoothing. It's all the things. It's so comfortable to wear, and they were really thoughtful in the shade range. So if you use, let's say, Alabaster in their Future Skin foundation, the one that comes in the jar, then you would be Alabaster in their concealer, but the concealer is a little bit lighter than the foundation because this is meant to be brightening. So keep that in mind. If you're not really into that brightening look, you can just get the shade that's a little bit deeper than this one, like the next one up. So anyway, they were really thoughtful about that, which is very, very helpful. It does have a more, traditional doe foot applicator. It does have the fuzzy tip to it. And I just think it's absolutely phenomenal, absolutely flawless, especially under the eyes. Okay, and foundations. This is one foundation that I kind of almost forgot about. I'm so ashamed. It's just, we're trying so much stuff here. But when I was like kind of sifting through my foundation drawer, I was like, I love this foundation. I remember when I first got this reformulation towards the beginning of this year, I was using it kind of nonstop. So this is the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. And I love this reformulation. I love it. And I know it's not everyone's favorite reformulation, but I have really dry skin. And this one is even more luminous and even silkier than the previous version. The previous version, I liked, but it definitely had a much more natural, almost like matte finish to it. And so it was something that I really had to use with a very kind of juicy primer, and then I would use like very glowy, like their Fluid Sheer on top. This Luminous Silk is, it's just gorgeous. It has like a really beautiful glow to it. I use the shade number 2. It's a gorgeous shade match for me. The packaging hasn't changed, pretty much looks the same. It's got the same pump top, the same shape to the bottle. The font has changed a little bit, but everything else is pretty much the same. And this is definitely the foundation I would reach for if I need a more glammed up look. If I really need to start with like a medium coverage foundation or something like that, this is definitely the foundation I would reach for. And the foundation that I have been loving for the everyday, and that I also have on today, is the Refi Skin-Based Skin Tint. And I have it in the shade 140N. It is stunning. It is the foundation that I reach for the everyday. It is very light coverage. It evens out my skin tone just enough. It's kind of like that Chanel Le Beige Serum Concealer. Definitely on the lighter side, but it does a little something. It does a little something where I don't feel quite as sallow, where I feel like my skin just looks a little bit more perfected. It makes my skin look really, really soft. It makes my skin look juicy, kind of. The finish of it is really, really nice. It's very skin-like with just a hint of glow. And I love this top to it. So you press the top down, there's a little hole at the top, the product comes out of the hole, and then you just take your brush, you just swipe it across the top. So it keeps it really clean. I don't have to use like a palette. I think they do call this like a built-in palette. It's really nice. It's just a really well thought out product and I really appreciate it. Yeah, I've just been reaching for this nonstop. So guys, those are the best luxury beauty releases of 2026 so far. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.